Hello friends, I'm Colonel Failure, and in this 5-minute masterclass we're going to be discussing the brand new freight system in Transport Fever 2 and how to get the most out of it. When this new freight system was first announced, existing Transport Fever fans were maybe a little concerned that they wouldn't be able to replicate the existing cargo networks that they'd come to know and love. After all, with the choice of a couple of mods, you could quite easily make the kind of freight trains that make Americans go weak at the knee. The main concern being that while previously you could deliver every different type of cargo to every city on the map, now you would be limited to just 2 per town. And as such, would this reduce the impact of cargo overall? In fact, one challenge that was particularly popular was to try and deliver every cargo type to every city, which was no mean feat, but of course you'd have to be deranged to try something like that. And while it's true, you cannot simply build yourself a cargo hub in the middle of 3 towns like this, which would be the way you would do things in the old game, and then expect to make a healthy living off it, this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not only possible to make just as much money with the new freight system, but you need to plan ahead a little bit further, as it's most unlikely that you're going to get a couple of towns right next to each other that both require the same thing. And this, in my opinion, is a good thing. Far from rendering goods hubs a thing of the past, they actually make them more useful than ever, as you're likely to want to deliver those end products to various towns all around the map. On this random generation map, as you can see, there is a massive variety of different goods requirements that towns have. You can either scan around to try and find the combo that you want, or you can pull it up on the city browser here and see at a glance the different requirements that they have. The main difference being that now you can produce your goods anywhere you like and then ship it to wherever you fancy. To illustrate this new system, we're going to do an oil to fuel line. Now, this production chain has actually been changed since the original game. Previously, you could create fuel by taking unrefined oil and simply taking it to a refinery. Now the oil needs to be refined twice, for fuel is terribly sophisticated. Now, this particular line is delivering to 2 towns, and 2 towns only, and they are nowhere near each other. This line is also incredibly convoluted. And yet, I've seen no slowdown in the amount of fuel being delivered, or the amount of oil being produced. In fact, the whole cargo system manages to hold together much better than it has done in the past, which means that you can avoid all of those moments where it slows down inexplicably and your previously profitable service all of a sudden starts costing you an arm and a leg. We're going to start off by picking up some oil in this handsome young truck. Now, of course, this oil is unrefined and therefore it's full of bits and things that you don't want. So we're going to cart it across to the refinery where it will be purified and ready for further use. This purified, or I guess refined, oil could now be turned into fuel or plastic. We're not going to make plastic because we care too much about the dolphins. So instead we're going to cart this off to a nearby port where we'll ship it across to another island where it can be turned into lovely, lovely fuel. Obviously we're doing all of this using vehicles that have internal combustion engines because we don't care about the dolphins that much. After zipping across the water and pulling an elegant handbrake turn into the dockside, we'll unload and then ship it by truck out to the magic factory where it's turned into fuel. From there we'll take some of it and deliver it to the nearby town of Köln, or Coin, or Köln, or what, I don't know, some people will know how to pronounce that. And the rest of it we're going to take to an airport, because nothing says safety like delivering fuel on board an aeroplane. We then fly the whole shebang right back over all the original operations to the town of Dartmouth, where after a skillful landing that really only uses a very short amount of the runway, we'll then truck it into the town centre so that people can fill things up with fuel, I suppose, and then set fire to it. Whatever takes their fancy. Obviously, I could have increased my profit on the existing route if I'd have done this by returning the fuel on board the vehicles I was using to bring out the unrefined oil, but if I'd done that, I wouldn't have been able to show off aeroplanes carrying fuel and make the associated joke. The main impact of delivering freight to a town is that it affects the level of growth that that town will get. I'll cover more on town growth in a separate tutorial, but as you can see, successfully delivering freight to a town can have a dramatic impact on how fast that town will grow. So if you're a veteran player of Transport Fever, don't be off-put by the reduced number of cargo types that each town takes. There is still every opportunity for you to make massive amounts of money by shipping a heck of a lot of freight here, there, and frankly, everywhere. Anyway, I've been Colonel Failure, and this brief introduction of freight is just there to give you the very start of a taste of the thing. There will be further tutorials along that go into it in significantly more depth. And I recommend you subscribe to this channel to make sure you don't miss out on that. Because if you don't subscribe to the channel, there's a risk you miss out on it, and we wouldn't want that. If you can be bothered, fling a like at this one, and I'll catch up with you next time. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.